everyone, Sabrina here from Scrappy Tales Crafts, and today I'm going to be showing you part 2 of the Simon Says Stamp June 2020 card kit. So for card 6, I'm going to create an A7 card. You can see that I have a strip of butterflies that I colored on craft cardstock. If you haven't seen part 1, I do show the coloring of each butterfly from the stamp set. So for part 2, I'm just going to show you how I created the cards. So you can see I'm adding some gold strips behind this larger craft strip. I'm also going to add some brown strips behind the gold. And that's just to help draw your eye in towards those butterflies. I am using my art glitter glue to attach these strips. Art glitter glue is definitely my favorite liquid glue. I've been using it for like 2 years now, and it's the only liquid glue that I'll use on my cards. So here you can see I'm taking a piece of pattern paper. I cut it to be 1/2 inch smaller than an A7 card base, and I'm going to stamp out my sentiment that says, "Can't wait to see how far you fly." I stamped it with my vintage sepia VersaFine ink, and you're gonna see I end up changing this layout. But first I'm going to glue down some twine at the bottom of this strip. This is some pink twine from my stash. I think I got it from Hobby Lobby a few years ago, and I'm trying to use up my twine. I used some of it in my last video in part 1. So this pink twine came in the same pack. And I'm going to double up the bow. And I think the reason why I wasn't a fan of this layout is because I glued the bow on the bottom left and my sentiment was on the top left, so I kind of wanted my sentiment to be on the top right to just balance the card more. I think it looks okay now, but I also wasn't a fan of the orange cardstock. I felt like my butterflies weren't standing out enough. So you're gonna see I'm going to just cut that orange pattern paper and flip it and use the reverse side instead. But first I'm going to pop up this butterfly strip using some foam tape. And here's where I decide, yeah, I want to change this and use a darker, more contrasting pattern paper instead. So you can see that I just trimmed off that orange panel into strips, and I'm going to use the reverse side. You can see I flipped it over and you can see that sentiment that I stamped. I felt like the blue contrasted more and helped the butterflies to stand out. And then this way I can also change the layout and have it more balanced like I wanted it to be. So I'm actually going to glue the bow at the top, and I'll have the sentiment on the bottom. So I'm just using my art glitter glue to glue down the twine. You can wrap it around the panel, but the last time I did that in part 1, it was really difficult to get a tight knot, so I just glued it this time. I'm now going to re-stamp my sentiment, and I will stamp it on that orange pattern paper that I had before because I did like how the sentiment looked on it, and it tied in some of that orange color in the yellow butterfly in the center, and there are also some orange flowers on that pattern paper. So I am going to glue that on the bottom right. I wanted to see if it would stand out enough, but the pattern paper was just too busy. So I did end up covering that sentiment up with the orange one. And then I'm going to flip this over, add a lot of ATG tape just because everything is held together with strips. I want to make sure that it is one solid piece. So here's my A7 card base. I thought about just gluing it onto the white, but it seemed a little too stark for me, so I'm going to glue a craft panel onto my card base and glue my card panel onto the craft, and I like that much more. So this was probably my most simple design. I actually didn't add any pearls to this card. I really like the simplicity of it, and I love A7 cards so much that I decided for my next card to create another A7. So you can see I die cut some circles from the pattern paper in the kit, and now I'm going to stamp out some of the sentiments from the stamp set. For the smaller circle, I stamped a little note with my vintage sepia ink, and then in a slightly larger circle I stamped long distance hug, And just like I did in part 1, for pretty much all of my cards, I go around each element on my cards with my vintage sepia VersaFine ink, and I think that helps to make the paper look old, and it adds to that vintage look. I also cut this beautiful pattern paper. This was my favorite from the kit. I cut it to be 1/4 inch smaller than an A7 card base, and I'm just going to go around the edges with that vintage sepia ink. And then I'll start to lay out my card design. I wanted to cover that sentiment that was printed on the pattern paper, so I did that by covering it with that pink larger circle. And I will be gluing this yellow butterfly in the center. I'm going to pop up all of my circles with some foam tape and adhere them. For the butterfly, I'm just going to add glue to the center of its body, and then I'll add foam tape to its wings so that the wings are popped up. I'm going to hold or pinch the center of its body to make sure that that wet adhesive dries completely. And then I'll flip this circle around and glue it flat. And I think the card could honestly be done here. I think it's really pretty, but I had some butterflies next to me and I wanted to use them all up. So here you can see I'm playing around with all the butterflies I have, trying to figure out which sizes and which color butterflies I want to use. I think I end up using these two right here. I'm going to glue this slightly larger one next to the long distance hug. Again, for all my butterflies, I add glue to the center of their bodies and foam tape to their wings. So I'll just glue that final butterfly to the top of the panel next to that little note sentiment. And that's going to finish the design. I'm just going to embellish this card with some Trinity Stamp flat back pearls. I really liked using these as the embellishments on my cards. I think they added to that vintage style. So I concentrated most of those pearls around that yellow butterfly to try to draw the eye towards that. And I'll just adhere those with my art glitter glue. And then I will adhere this panel onto my A7 card base. All of my card bases are made with 110-pound white Neenah cardstock, but I also used the cardstock that came in the kit for some of my cards, and I think that was 100-pound paper, so it is really nice for card bases. And I think out of all 10 cards, this one's my favorite. I just really like A7 cards, and that pattern paper really speaks for itself. For card 8, you can see I cut some of the pattern paper into large triangles, and when you put them together it will create an A2 panel, and you're going to see what I'm talking about in just a second. I'm going to first ink around the edges with the vintage sepia ink. I also die cut an oval from some of the pattern paper. And I cut a slightly larger oval out of some white cardstock, which I will layer behind the orange pattern paper oval. I'm going to ink around that white oval as well, just so that everything coordinates. Now I'm taking some of the butterflies that I fussy cut out earlier and I'm going to arrange them onto this card panel. And now I'm going to stamp out the sentiment inside that oval using the brown ink again. I chose Can't Wait to See How Far You Fly. I really like that sentiment. It's nice and encouraging. I'm going to pop up the orange oval onto my white one. And then I'm going to see how this will look on my card base. And I decided that I wanted there to be a wider gap between the two pattern papers. So I'm going to off camera trim them down just a little bit. So here you can see the gap in the center is a little bit larger now. I'm going to glue these panels down with my ATG tape. And then I will take my oval and adhere that with my ATG. And then I will take my butterflies and glue those down. I'm still fiddling around with the layout that I want, but eventually I get it, so I'm going to add some foam tape behind their wings. For this larger butterfly, I'm going to add regular glue where it overlaps the oval so that everything is level. But then I think this smaller one, I'm going to add foam tape behind it. It's not going to overlap that orange oval, but this pink one will, so I'm just going to add foam tape to the top of its wings, and then I'll add art glitter glue to the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to take those pearls again and just scatter them around the empty space around that orange oval. And then that will complete card number 8. I guess I wanted to add one more pearl. And then here's a close-up. For card 9, I wanted to use some more of the cut-aparts from the pattern paper. I chose this one with the bird on it. There was a pattern paper right here that had all birds, so I thought that this Thinking of You cut-apart would match the pattern paper nicely. I die cut both of those from a stitched rectangle die. And now I'm going to take some of the pattern paper with all of those collage images, and I'm going to cut one of them out with my scissors. I thought I would kind of create a cluster. I also took another piece of pattern paper with this pretty flower image. I'm going to fussy cut it out. I'm also going to fussy cut that sitting bird right underneath it because that exact bird was in the pattern paper. So I thought I could incorporate both of these somehow. You can see I don't know where I'm going with this card. I'm just picking and choosing the elements I think look nice together. Here I had the other triangle from my last card, so I'm trying to see, do I want to add that to break up the busy pattern paper? And then I'm going to cut out my other bird, which I want to add to the top of that cut apart. I really wanted to incorporate this small rectangle floral piece. So here I'm just trying to figure out the layout because I did feel like that bird pattern paper was really busy. So what I did was I cut a strip of green polka dot pattern paper, which is more subtle. I'm going to glue that to the right side of this panel. And then I'm going to glue my flower piece that I die cut, glue that to the bottom right corner, and then I'm going to start arranging my elements again until I'm happy with the way that it looks. I definitely wanted that one bird at the top, so I just went ahead and glued it down. And I liked how the small rectangle looked peeking behind this cut apart, so I glued that down. I also glued the cut apart, and then I'm going to take some of the butterflies. I tried to use up every last butterfly that I colored in fussy cut, so here I'm just trying to figure out which butterflies I want to use, and I like these two green ones because they coordinated with the green pattern paper. So I'm going to glue the larger one right underneath the Thinking of You sentiment, and then I'll adhere a smaller one next to that other bird. And I think that's a nice pretty cluster collage inspired card. Right now I'm deciding which card base I want to use, and I think I end up picking that darker gray because I liked how it matched the colors on the birds. I also feel like darker cardstock just helps to draw your eye in more towards the center. So as usual, I'm going to embellish this card with those flat back pearls, and then that will complete my 9th card. So I'm slowing down the video so I can show you guys. Here's a close-up. For my final card, I'm going to take some Distress Oxide inks and ink blend onto a craft panel, and what that will do is mute down your inks. So it's not going to be as vibrant as you would if you ink blended on white cardstock, but that's definitely what I wanted since I was going for a vintage theme. So I'm ink blending peacock feathers at the bottom, picked raspberry in the center, and wild honey at the top. And I chose those oxide colors based off the colors I colored my butterflies in. I think they're pretty good matches. I wanted to stamp Beautiful Friend next to that pink butterfly, and here is where I mess up. I wanted to do a 3-toned sentiment like I did on card 1. I liked how that turned out, but it just didn't look good when I did it with the same colors I used to ink blend, because it just blended in. Obviously, you can see that when I stamp it, that pink did not show up because there's already pink underneath it. So I'm going to show you how I fixed that. So I'm going to stamp You Make Things Better. I think this was the only sentiment that I didn't use yet, so I wanted to use it on my final card. I'm also going to stamp out You Are Enough onto a smaller circle and then high. All of these circles I die cut from the pattern papers in the kit. I tried to find papers that match the inks that I used. So here I'm laying out the card again. I decided to have the blue circle in the orange area and the orange circle in the blue area, just so that they stood out more, but I did keep the butterflies in their designated color areas. I'm going to glue down the 2 smaller circles, but I did pop up the larger pink one. I'm also popping up my butterflies here. And that will complete the layout. So now I'm going to grab my card base, trying to decide which one I want to use. I think I end up going with a white card base because I felt like it helped the ink blending stand out more. So I'll flip that panel around, add some ATG tape, and adhere it onto my card base. And then I'll take those pearls again and scatter them around this card panel. I actually scattered them in a diagonal. I tend to do this a lot with my cards. I'm not sure why. I think it's just pleasing to my eye. So I'll just attach those with my art glitter glue, and then that will complete my final card. So here is a close-up of that final card, and now I'm going to show you all 10 cards that I created using the Simon Says stamp June 2020 card kit. I really enjoyed working with this kit. I'm really glad that I embraced the vintage theme and challenged myself to work in a style that I don't typically work in. But I think all of them turned out really pretty. Let me know which card was your favorite. If you haven't yet already, please subscribe to my channel. I am so close to 3,000 subscribers. I feel like I'm saying that in every video now, but every video I'm getting that much closer. So if you guys subscribe, I will be having a giveaway, and I'm also looking for people to participate in a celebration hop. So if you have a YouTube channel, please message me in the comments, or I have my email listed in my description box. Shoot me an email and let me know if you want to participate, because I think it would be really fun to do that as part of the giveaway. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!